Hey guys, it's Tyken here. I'm back with another video for you, so let's dive right in. Oh, and don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment. Let me know which manhwa you want to see next. Let's go!
On a dark night, cries of despair echoed from an impenetrable fortress. For someone, it was the sound of the end of everything. Hanging and helpless, Zhang Xiaoyong was forced to watch the massacre of his companions below. His captors watched the scene with smiles on their faces. The woman, Kui Jing, reveled in his suffering. She taunted him, saying that with all his friends dead, his life was now meaningless. The taunt hit him hard. Happy memories with his now dead friends flooded his mind. He blamed himself for everything, feeling the weight of the tragedy that had befallen them. Consumed by rage, the young man shouted that the cruel woman deserved the most miserable death possible. The man next to her, Li Shuxiong, mocked Zhang's fury. He suggested they slowly torture the prisoner so Cui Jing could have some fun. Without hesitation, Li Shuxiong pressed the button on the remote control. The rope snapped. Zhang Xiaoyong was thrown to his death, falling among the creatures that were once his friends. But instead of the end, he opened his eyes in a familiar and safe place. The young man was completely confused, not understanding what had just happened. And then, he saw her. The same woman who betrayed him and led him to his death was there, standing in front of him as if nothing had happened. He looked around, recognizing the place. It finally clicked. Somehow, he had returned to the past, to a time before the apocalypse that destroyed the world. The memory of the betrayal was sharp and painful. He remembered how Kui Jing deceived him, stole all his inheritance, and left him homeless long before the world ended. Soon after that betrayal, the global catastrophe happened. Most of humanity was transformed into zombies, and the world plunged into pure chaos. In that first life, he managed to survive with the help of the friends he made along the way. Together, they built a safe haven amidst the end of the world. But fate was cruel. Kui Jing reappeared, pretending to be a desperate refugee. He fell into her trap, and that compassion cost the lives of everyone he loved. The memory of the betrayal was vivid. He remembered the day Kui Jing cornered him, demanding an absurd dowry of 400,000 won without budging an inch. But this time, he wasn't the same man. The experience of a lifetime of suffering and the weight of his friends' deaths had completely changed his perspective. Back then, she pressured him, demanding an answer and giving him only a week to get the money. Her arrogance was the same as he remembered. He recalled the feeling of being cornered, seeing no other way out than to agree to her demands. He gave in, saying he would figure it out just so she would leave. He kicked her out of his house, exhausted from that endless discussion. The moment the door closed, she was confused. Something seemed different about him, but she couldn't pinpoint what. He locked the door, not just to her, but to the whole life of suffering she represented. That chapter was closed forever. It was then that something completely unexpected happened. A floating blue screen suddenly appeared in front of him. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. It wasn't a hallucination. The screen was real and seemed to be waiting for a command. A message confirmed his suspicions. The apocalypse system was active. A wave of understanding and hope washed over him. This was his advantage, the tool that would change everything. The system had a store where he could exchange points for essential survival items, from enhancement potions to supply boxes. But before planning the salvation of the world, a more immediate problem presented itself. He was starving. He remembered how, in his previous life, he saved every penny for Kui Jing's dowry, to the point of starving and becoming malnourished. All for nothing. This time, things would be different. He picked up his cell phone, determined not to repeat the same mistakes. With the apocalypse just a month away, he decided he wouldn't deprive himself anymore. It was time to enjoy good food while it still existed. Far from settling for little, the protagonist decided to start his new life in style, ordering food from the most expensive and exclusive restaurant in the city, a place he never dreamed of going. And what arrived was a true feast, a meal that, in his past life, would cost months of hard work and sacrifice, but now it was just the beginning. Faced with so much food, the young man hesitated for a second. The memory of hunger and deprivation was still recent, and allowing himself that luxury seemed almost like a dream. He then took the first bite. In that instant, a powerful energy coursed through his body. The food wasn't just killing his hunger, but restoring the strength and vitality he had lost over the years. He devoured everything mercilessly, as if he were making up for all the lost time. Each dish was a farewell to his old life of misery. When he finally finished, he barely had time to breathe. A notification flashed in front of him, but it wasn't from the food app. It was a call from Wen Shuya, Kui Jing's best friend. The protagonist already knew this wasn't a good sign. On the other end of the line, the woman accused him, saying that he didn't truly love Kui Jing for not agreeing to give her his properties. She insisted that it was all just a test of love. But the protagonist was no longer the same man who accepted everything in silence. Tired of so much manipulation, he snapped. And without a second thought, he hung up on her, severing the last thread that tied him to that toxic past. A huge weight lifted from his shoulders. For the first time, he felt genuinely free from Kui Jing's influence and her circle of friends. Now, with a full stomach and a clear mind, he could finally focus on what really mattered, preparing for the end of the world. The next day, he went straight to one of the most luxurious real estate centers in the city. His survival plan was about to begin. A broker approached him immediately, asking if he was there to rent or buy a house. His answer, however, was neither. He then revealed his true objective. He didn't want a house. He was there to buy an entire plot of land. The conversation caught the attention of the sales manager, Manager Zhu, who didn't seem at all impressed with the young man. He interrupted the broker, clearly despising the protagonist for his simple clothes and appearance of someone who had no money. For the manager, that kid was just another dreamer wasting everyone's time. He had seen types like that before, but then the manager had an idea, a way to publicly humiliate the young man and get rid of him once and for all. With a mocking smile, he challenged the protagonist, saying that if he really had the money to buy land, the manager himself would do something unthinkable. The protagonist, however, was not shaken. He was tired of being underestimated and looked back, silently accepting the challenge. The discussion began to attract attention. The young man made it clear that he would not tolerate being treated that way, stating that he despised people like the manager. And to end the conversation, he simply pulled out his card. It wasn't just any card, but the ultimate symbol of wealth. The manager and the broker were speechless. That unlimited credit card was proof that the young man wasn't kidding. The crowd around exploded in comments. They had never seen anyone come to buy land like that. He was a real rich guy. Everyone's attitude changed instantly. The broker, now with the utmost respect, offered to show the available land. Manager Zhu was left behind, sweating and completely humiliated, while the protagonist was treated like royalty. Sitting in a private area, the broker began to present the options, ready to explain every detail of the land. But the protagonist interrupted her. He didn't need a catalog. Instead, he listed his specific requirements for the perfect land. The protagonist finished listing his demands. They were so specific and unusual that they left the broker unsure of what to offer. The woman became visibly nervous, while Manager Zhu watched, still resentful of the humiliation from before. It was then that the manager, with a malicious smile, suggested a plot of land in the East District. The broker was shocked by the idea, questioning if he was serious. Manager Ju knew exactly what he was doing. He was offering the worst land in the catalog, a property full of problems that no one would ever buy. The broker tried to warn the protagonist. She explained that the place had unfinished factories and construction had been abandoned, making it a terrible investment. But when analyzing the details, the protagonist saw exactly what he needed. The location was great, and the unfinished factories for him were an advantage, not a problem. Without hesitation, he returned the papers and confirmed his decision. He wanted to buy that land and asked to sign the contract immediately. The broker couldn't hide her astonishment. That client was really going to throw millions away on a property that everyone considered useless. The protagonist hurried the signing, saying that he needed to be quick, as someone was waiting to fulfill a very disgusting promise later. The message was clearly for the manager. The value of the transaction was astronomical. Millions being paid in cash for land that everyone considered complete garbage. Upon seeing the final amount on the receipt, Manager Ju despaired. Not only was he humiliated, but he also saw the young man close a $1 million deal that he himself tried to sabotage. Before leaving, the protagonist even patted the manager on the shoulder, a final gesture to seal his victory over the man who despised him. As the protagonist walked away, he shouted a final warning to the manager, reminding him that his stomach wasn't very good, but that the promise would be kept. And so, with the land secured and his revenge complete, the young man left the place with the greatest peace of mind. However, upon leaving, he was recognized by another man. From the angry expression, it was clear that this was another problem from the past coming back to haunt him. The man who recognized him was Li Shuxiang. He wasted no time and soon associated the young man's presence there with the purchase of the land, becoming furious with the discovery. Shuxiang wasn't the type to resolve things through conversation. His methods were brutal and direct, a lesson he made a point of teaching anyone who disappointed him. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a woman named Kui Jing relaxed peacefully, completely unaware of what she was about to discover, until her phone rang. She answered, still with an air of superiority, without any idea of the bombshell that was about to explode on the other end of the line. The news hit like a lightning bolt. Shuqiang mentioned that Zhang Xiaoyong had just bought land, and Kui Jing immediately connected the dots. He could only have used the dowry money. The money she considered hers. Fury took over Kui Jing. She felt betrayed and humiliated, deciding right then and there that she would settle things with Zhang Xiaoyong personally. Far from all this confusion, Zhang Xiaoyong was already at home, planning his next steps. Buying the land was just the beginning. Now he needed a lot more money to build his base. His thoughts were interrupted by violent knocks on the door. It was Kui Jing and her friend. Without even giving him time to explain, she immediately went on the attack, accusing Zhang Xiaoyong of spending her money. The young man was completely lost. He had no idea what she was talking about. Kui Jing then shouted that she knew he used the dowry money to buy the land, and in her logic, if the money was hers, the land was now hers too. The audacity of the accusation left Zhang Xiaoyong speechless for a moment. Her logic was so absurd that he could barely process it. It was then that he pulled out a wad of cash, proving that he didn't need her dowry for anything. He made it clear that he had money to spare, but that he wouldn't spend a penny on her. And to turn the tables completely, he revealed that he knew all about her affair with Li Shuqiang. Zhang Xiaoyong's revelation landed like a bomb. Caught off guard and completely exposed, Kui Jing couldn't hide her fury and shock at being discovered. With no patience for more drama, the protagonist simply told them both to leave. Wen Shuya still tried to calm the situation, but he had already made up his mind. The door slammed shut, ending the discussion. Kui Jing was paralyzed, without even having had the chance to respond in kind. Defeated, and with nothing more to do there, the two finally left. already in the hallway, waiting for the elevator, Wen Shuya couldn't contain herself. She confronted her friend, wanting to know if it was true that she had become involved with that man, Li Shuxiang. Jing didn't need to say anything. Her expression of frustration already confirmed everything, and her friend realized that the situation was much more serious than she imagined. The sound of the elevator arriving interrupted the tense conversation between the two. But Wen Shuya didn't seem willing to let things go. She warned that she wouldn't go easy on Zhang Xiaoyang. Meanwhile, far from all that confusion, the protagonist was already focused on his next goal, renovating the factory he had bought. He went straight to the construction site, where the hard work was about to begin. Zhang Xiaoyang handed the project to the foreman. The list of requirements was for a true fortress: reinforce walls, build watchtowers, install barbed wire, and even explosion-proof steel doors. The foreman was shocked by the level of security. He couldn't resist asking what kind of dangerous people the young man had gotten into a fight with to need something like that. The protagonist cut off his curiosity, saying that he didn't need to know anything. The only thing that mattered was that the work was completed in 1 month. The man said it was impossible, but Zhang Xiaoyang was firm. If he didn't do it, someone else would. Pressured, the foreman began to sweat. He explained that to meet such a tight deadline, he would need his team to work non-stop. And of course, a job of this magnitude would require a large initial investment. He asked for a deposit of 5 million yuan to start building the fortress. Despite the absurd amount, Zhang Xiaoyang didn't hesitate. He assured the foreman that he didn't need to worry about payment. The man, still suspicious, insisted that the deadline was tight and that the work needed to start immediately. To seal the deal, the protagonist made a bold promise. If he didn't pay, the land would belong to the foreman. Faced with this, the man finally agreed, but as soon as the deal was closed, a familiar voice interrupted him. It was Jing, his ex-girlfriend, who suddenly appeared at the construction site. She approached intimately, grabbing his arm as if nothing had happened between them, catching Zhang Xiaoyang completely by surprise. Jing continued with the act, asking with a smile if he planned to build a mansion on such beautiful land. Inside, however, she was confused. Normally, a simple touch would make him blush, but now he showed no reaction at all, and she felt that something was very wrong. She clung to him even more, trying to provoke the old reaction that she always managed to get, but got nothing in return. That was the last straw. Zhang Xiaoyang got tired of that theater and forcefully pushed her hand away, leaving her completely shocked. Without saying a single word, he turned his back and walked away, making it clear that her presence there was irrelevant. The protagonist refocused on what mattered, giving new instructions for the work, as if Jing no longer existed. The public humiliation infuriated her. She realized that she had lost all control over him and decided that she wouldn't let things go like this. Later, back in his apartment, the harsh reality hit him. The money he got from mortgaging the house, 3 million yuan, wasn't nearly enough to cover the construction deposit. The situation was desperate, but he couldn't give up. He needed to find a way to get the rest of the money, and fast. A risky idea began to form in his mind. Maybe it was the only way to guarantee his survival in the approaching apocalypse. As he pondered his risky plan, loud knocks on the door brought him back to reality. Judging by the irritation, he already knew exactly who it was. The protagonist opened the door, already prepared for what was coming next, and there was his grandfather, who, without even waiting, began accusing him of having spent the previous night at the club. The young man tried to defend himself from the accusation, but the old man was too furious to listen to anything. Tired of the shouting, the protagonist simply ignored the sermons and turned away, leaving his grandfather talking to himself. The grandson's attitude made the old man even more indignant, who couldn't believe the disrespect. The protagonist then turned back, with a calmness that contrasted with his grandfather's fury. He had a proposal to make. The condition was simple and direct. He demanded that his grandfather pay off the mortgage on his new house. The grandfather was shocked by the audacity of the request, speechless in the face of that blackmail. Faced with the hesitation, the protagonist simply ripped the doorknob off, showing that the conversation was over and that he would not accept no for an answer. The risky plan had worked. He knew his grandfather would give in. With the 5 million yuan he got from his grandfather added to the loan, he would finally have the money needed to build his base. With the money secured, he accessed the system. The first mission, preparation for the apocalypse, was complete, and he could finally redeem his reward. Without wasting a second, the protagonist set off for the next stage of his plan. The mission was clear: stockpile supplies for a year. He advanced through the supermarket with a determination that frightened the other customers. The people at the market didn't understand anything. They whispered to each other, judging the boy as just another crazy person who believed in rumors about the end of the world. But Zhang Xiaoyang didn't care about the looks. He continued filling cart after cart, emptying the shelves with a cold determination. The mission was clear, and he wasn't going to fail. While the others mocked, he followed his plan to the letter, knowing that soon they would regret not having done the same. And as a confirmation, the system beeped. The preparation for the apocalypse task was successfully completed, and he earned his first 10 points. With the reward in hand, he immediately opened the system store. There were a few options, but one in particular seemed made for him. The protagonist's supply box cost exactly the 10 points he had. Without hesitation, he decided to bet everything on that item. The exchange was a success. His points went to 0, but in return, a mysterious box materialized in front of him. Inside it, a spatial ring. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled, satisfied. He knew he had made the right choice. The problem of how to store so many supplies was solved. But he barely had time to celebrate, and the system already gave him a new challenge. The next mission was to stock up on sustenance for 10 years, worth double the points. Suddenly, his shopping spree was interrupted. A group of men appeared, walking towards him as if they owned the place. The leader of the group stopped right in front of Zhang Xiaoyang, staring at him with an unfriendly expression. The protagonist recognized him right away. He was an unwanted figure from his past. He remembered the school days. That was Yang Tao, one of the bullies who lived to extort the weaker ones at the behest of another guy. And now, here he was again. Pointing his finger, Yang Tao ordered Zhang Xiaoyang to return everything he had taken, or things would get ugly. But the protagonist didn't seem intimidated at all. On the contrary, he faced the situation with a smile of someone who already knew exactly how it would all end. The man in the suit, losing patience, shouted and demanded that he pay for all the items at that very moment, clearly doubting that the young man had money for it. Then, the protagonist accepted the challenge. An entire hour passed while the cashiers scanned item by item from all the shopping carts. The final bill was astronomical. The cashier, shocked, informed the manager of the total amount, a sum that seemed impossible to be paid by a single person. Convinced that he had won the argument, the manager shoved the card machine in the protagonist's face, challenging him to pay the bill. Without even blinking, the protagonist simply tapped the card on the machine with a calmness that completely disarmed the other's arrogance. The transaction was approved instantly. The manager was paralyzed, sweating cold as he looked at the little machine, unable to believe what had just happened. After causing all that commotion and being humiliated, the man was invited to leave by the market's security guards. But he couldn't leave with his head down. Turning around one last time, he shouted, accusing the protagonist of looking for a fight, and of having gone too far. The protagonist, however, remained impassive, pushing his cart as if nothing had happened. The manager insisted that the young man owed an apology and threatened to return all the purchases if it wasn't given. By this point, the commotion had already attracted a crowd. Other customers started filming and taking the protagonist's side, saying the manager was the one who should apologize. Seeing that the situation had completely turned in his favor, the protagonist just watched, enjoying the spectacle. He then made an even bolder proposal. If the manager apologized, he would buy 10 times more. And to prove it, he showed his card. Without waiting for an answer, he brought the card closer to the machine again, ready to show that he wasn't bluffing. Completely cornered by the protagonist's proposal, Manager Ju tried one last gambit, demanding an apology to proceed with the purchase. But his arrogance had already turned into pure despair. The protagonist just watched with a smirk. He knew he had won the battle of egos and that the manager's humiliation was only a matter of time. It finally dawned on the manager. There was nowhere left to run. Against his will, and with the weight of the loss on his shoulders, Manager Ju bowed in a forced apology. But the protagonist wasn't satisfied with little. He forced him to bow even lower, making it clear who was in charge and warning him not to be so reckless in the future. With the situation resolved, the manager's attitude changed drastically. Now, he followed Zhang Xiaoyong through the market, trying to strike up a conversation and be helpful to his new big client. With a fawning smile, he asked what the young man planned to do with so many purchases, trying to insert himself into his plans. Zhang Xiaoyong, however, was in no mood for small talk. The manager then had an idea. He called a contact, a wholesaler named Zhang Shengje, announcing that he had found a huge client for him, a clear attempt to please and, perhaps, profit from it. He led Zhang Xiaoyong out of the market, indicating the place where they could find the wholesaler to close the deal. But suddenly, a luxury car appeared at high speed, braking sharply and almost running them over. While the manager jumped back, completely frightened, the protagonist didn't even move. He just watched the car indifferently. His gaze turned serious, analyzing the situation with a calmness that bordered on danger. A man with an air of superiority got out of the car. He looked at Zhang Xiaoyong and commented on his courage, but the tone was one of pure mockery. The manager tried to introduce the two, but soon realized something. That wholesaler, Zhang Shengje, and Zhang Xiaoyong were not strangers. They were former schoolmates. The reunion was not friendly at all. While Manager Ju tried to remain calm, Zhang Shengji exuded superiority, analyzing his former colleague with disdain. He seemed to relish the moment, certain that he was in a position of power and control. But Zhang Xiaoyong showed no reaction. He simply watched the scene, completely impassive, as if the smoke around him was the only thing moving. Shengje let out a mocking laugh, amused by the protagonist's courage, which he considered mere audacity. He commented that he couldn't even intimidate an illiterate who looked down on others. The provocation was clear and direct. Suddenly, all his anger turned to Manager Ju. Shengje pushed him, furious that his time was being wasted with a supposed big client. And it didn't stop there. The wholesaler kicked the manager, humiliating him in front of Xiaoyong to make it clear who was in charge there. Zhang Xiaoyong's reaction was a subtle smile. He found that whole display of strength simply pathetic. Seeing that he didn't shake the protagonist, Shengje resorted to physical aggression, grabbing Xiaoyong by the sweatshirt violently. But even face to face with the wholesaler's fury, the young man didn't back down. On the contrary, his smirk only widened, silently challenging him. He maintained an almost innocent expression, as if he didn't understand the reason for so much anger. Manager Ju, in the middle of the two, panicked. He desperately tried to calm the situation before things got out of control. Xiaoyang's calmness was irritating Shengjie deeply. He yelled at the protagonist to shut up, completely losing his composure. He tightened his grip on the young man's collar, expecting a reaction of fear that never came. It was then that, without changing his expression, Zhang Xiaoyang made an unexpected move. He took out his wallet, ready to resolve this in another way. On the other end of the line, Zhang Shengjie listened to Manager Zhu's request. His expression made it clear that he was not enjoying that conversation at all. Already at the location, Shengjie found Zhang Xiaoyang. He started the conversation with the same air of superiority as before, trying to impose himself on his former colleague. He believed he had the perfect opportunity to get rid of a batch of problematic products and still profit from the protagonist. A plan that seemed perfect. Shengjie then presented the batch of goods, offering a 10% discount as if it were a great favor. He just didn't mention a small detail about the quality of the products. The protagonist stood there, still, analyzing the situation. Shengjie and Manager Zhu expected him to fall into the trap without questioning. But Zhang Xiaoyang wasn't a fool. He picked up one of the packages to inspect it closely, wanting to confirm his suspicions, and it didn't take long for him to realize the truth. With an ironic tone, Xiaoyang commented on how Shengjie was a great strategist. The trap had been discovered. Caught red-handed, Shengjie's confidence vanished instantly. He tried to disguise his nervousness with a forced smile, but it was too late. Seeing his plan fail, Shengjie tried to salvage the deal. Desperate, he offered a 50% discount on all the food that was close to expiring. He now looked at Xiaoyang with an almost pleading expression, hoping that the young man would accept the new proposal. Xiaoyang accepted the 50% offer, but with an absurd condition. He would take everything now and only pay in a month. The game had completely turned. Shengjie panicked at the proposal. He questioned how he would get paid if the food spoiled and, curious, asked what Xiaoyang's sales channel was to be able to get rid of it all. But the protagonist had a much bigger plan in mind, something that Shengjie couldn't even imagine. With a confident smile, Zhang Xiaoyang cut the conversation short. He told Shengjie not to ask too many questions, just deliver the products. The delivery address would be sent soon. Zhang Xiaoyang's attitude left Shengjie completely speechless. He didn't understand what was happening, but he felt like he had just fallen into a much bigger trap than the one he set himself. After closing the deal with Shengjie, Zhang Xiaoyang received a call. He seemed a little impatient with the interruption. On the other end of the line, a person wanted to know who they were talking to, but the protagonist didn't have time for formalities. He gave a clear order to his men. The priority was to organize all the food he had just acquired. The rest could wait. And so, Zhang Xiaoyang left to resolve his next matter, leaving the two behind to take care of the logistics. Shortly after, elsewhere, a large sum of money was being offered as a deposit for a deal. An elderly man was desperate to buy Zhao Yang's house, offering payment in advance to close the deal as quickly as possible. The protagonist listened to the proposal carefully, analyzing the situation and the man in front of him. The old man explained the reason for such haste. He urgently needed the house to guarantee his granddaughter's enrollment in the local school. Faced with the man's honesty, Xiaoyang made his decision. He wasn't going to take advantage of the situation. The protagonist's positive response left the old man completely shocked and relieved. He wasn't expecting it to be so easy. Zhang Xiaoyang assured him that he wouldn't go back on his word, reassuring the buyer and confirming the deal. With everything settled, the sales contract was signed, sealing the deal between the two. The old man could hardly believe his luck, holding the contract with a feeling of pure gratitude. But as the old man said goodbye with a bow, a dark thought crossed Xiaoyang's mind. He knew that this man's kindness wouldn't save him from the apocalypse to come. Driven by an impulse, he changed his mind. The protagonist called the old man back, asking him to wait. That meeting wasn't over yet. With a gesture, Zhang Xiaoyong interrupted the departing man. He had a counter-proposal. The old man could keep the money and the deed. The protagonist just needed to borrow the place for a while. Soon after, Xiaoyong went to inspect the progress of his shelter. The construction manager greeted him enthusiastically, eager to show him all the progress they had made. The man assured him that the structure was becoming impeccable. The walls and doors were absolutely secure, built to withstand anything that was to come. He then took him to the warehouse, explaining that it was an old factory that had been completely renovated and was ready for use. It was the perfect place. Satisfied with what he saw, Zhang Xiaoyong made a call to Zhang Shengzhe. He gave the order for the delivery of all supplies to begin immediately. In no time, the warehouse became a center of frenetic activity. Boxes and more boxes of goods arrived, and the hired workers organized everything on the giant shelves. The protagonist supervised every detail of the operation, instructing the workers to store the perishable products separately to ensure they lasted as long as possible. At the end of the day, with the work completed, the workers left. The doors of the shelter were closed, sealing the first stage of the survival plan. Alone in the immensity of the warehouse, Xiaoyong watched the mountain of supplies he had managed to accumulate. It was a decade's worth of stock. A smile of pure satisfaction appeared on his face. Everything had gone exactly as planned. At that moment, a system notification appeared. The task of stocking supplies for 10 years was completed, earning him 20 system points. With the new points, he opened the system store and saw that new items were available. It was a chance to get even stronger before the end of the world. Among the options, a skill awakening box caught his attention. He didn't hesitate and spent his points, betting on luck to get something useful. And luck was on his side. Xiaoyong acquired the Eye of the Mind skill, capable of detecting the hostility of others, an essential tool for surviving what was to come. With the supplies secured and a new skill in hand, a new task arose. The next mission was to prepare for battle. The work was far from over. To prepare for battle, Zhang Xiaoyong's first stop was a black market, a noisy, chaotic place where people traded everything from fake antiques to items of dubious origin. He walked through the crowd, ignoring the whispers about newly unearthed treasures. Xiaoyong wasn't there to buy relics, but rather tools for the survival that was approaching. With a focused gaze, he analyzed each stall, looking for something specific. The heated discussions and attempted scams around him didn't distract him. His mind was completely focused on the mission. He knew exactly what he needed to find to have a chance at what was to come. And then, he saw it. A stall with a collection of blades and combat knives. It was exactly what he was looking for. Xiaoyong approached the seller, a rough-looking man, and got straight to the point. He picked up one of the knives, but the quality was disappointing. The young man asked if the seller had anything more durable, something that wouldn't break on the first impact. The seller, annoyed, replied that if he wanted something sharper, he should buy a sharpener. As far as he was concerned, that was the best he had to offer. But Xiaoyong insisted, explaining that none of those weapons were strong enough for what he needed. The man's patience ran out. He glared at the young man, accusing him of only being there to cause trouble. Just then, the seller's cell phone beeped. A bank transfer notification left him completely speechless. Xiaoyong showed the screen of his own cell phone, confirming the payment of 200,000 yuan. He stated that he was serious about buying and wasn't there to play games. The seller's attitude changed instantly. With the money in his account, he quickly called an assistant to take care of the stall. He then invited Xiaoyang to a more private place, saying that it wasn't convenient to talk about the heavy stuff there in the middle of everyone. Once in the private location, the seller began to show his merchandise. He offered Zhang Xiaoyang two options: a cheap homemade gun, only good for shooting chickens, or a high-quality revolver, almost as good as the official ones. The man explained that the revolver replica cost 5,000 yuan and used real ammunition, which he himself could provide. The offer was modest, but the seller seemed confident. But Xiaoyang wasn't impressed at all. He reminded the seller that he had advanced 200,000 yuan and wasn't there to buy junk. The revelation caught the man by surprise. He had no idea he was dealing with such a big customer. Then, Xiaoyang revealed the true size of his order. He didn't want one gun. He wanted 2 million in heavy weaponry. The seller's attitude changed instantly. He asked who Xiaoyang was, but the young man cut him off, saying that he didn't need to know the details, only whether or not he could fulfill the order. The man assured Xiaoyang that he had found the right person and that he could handle the order without any problems. Before continuing, he went to the door to check if the conversation was secure. The seller peeked outside, making sure no one was listening. With everything clear, he turned to Xiaoyang, ready to close the deal. He asked for a list of what was needed and arranged the place and time of delivery at midnight the day after tomorrow. With the agreement sealed, the two left the place. The seller, now extremely respectful, said goodbye to Xiaoyang as if he were a boss. Xiaoyang maintained his composure, but knew that in the black market, anyone could recognize him. And that was a risk. But upon leaving, Zhang Xiaoyang was intercepted by a man in a white suit. The guy provoked him, mocking his choices and the way he lived his life, clearly trying to belittle him. The man continued his arrogant speech, treating Xiaoyang as if he were a nobody. However, the young man just stared at him without showing any reaction. It was then that a confident smile appeared on Xiaoyang's face. He had already seen through the entire facade of the man in front of him. Using his mind's eye ability, Xiaoyang analyzed not only the man, but also everyone around him, understanding the situation completely. Using the information he got, Xiaoyang provoked him back, mentioning how he used counterfeit products to deceive a woman named Kui Jing. The words hit home. The man exploded in fury, shocked that Xiaoyang knew his dirtiest secrets. At that moment, one of Xiaoyang's allies approached from behind, ready to act. From a corner, the group leader gave a clear order to his men. They were to teach the guy a lesson, but without killing him. There were other plans for him. Completely surrounded, the man in the suit panicked. He tried to offer money to get out of that situation, but it was too late. Without warning, one of Xiaoyang's men stepped forward and hit him with a metal bat. The impact was so strong that it threw him across the street. A display of brutal and decisive force. Lying on the ground and defeated, all the man could do was endure the pain while his tattoos were exposed. 2 days had passed. Xiaoyang arrived at a huge warehouse where a truck was waiting for him. It was the delivery he had arranged, and inside the boxes, there wasn't food or common supplies. What he had bought on the black market was a complete arsenal of firearms. Besides the weapons, Zhang Xiaoyang had gotten a rare enhancement item. It was twice as powerful as what was available in the system store, an advantage he couldn't waste. It was a physical enhancement serum, a direct injection to increase his base strength by 2 points. Without hesitating, he prepared to apply it. To survive what was coming, every drop of power was necessary, no matter the cost. And the cost was excruciating pain. The serum tore through his body, forcing an evolution that an ordinary person couldn't withstand. But the pain passed, and what remained was power. He felt the strength flowing in his muscles, a 40% increase that completely changed the game. With that, his physical attribute reached 8 points, well above the human average. Now, only one thing was missing: testing his new limits. He looked around the warehouse, searching for a suitable target for his new strength. An aura of power enveloped his body. The transformation was real, and he could feel it in every fiber of his being. His eyes landed on a thick steel pipe that was leaning nearby. It would serve perfectly. With a confident smile, Xiaoyong grabbed the metal pipe, ready to see what he was capable of. A single kick was enough. The massive steel bent under the impact as if it were rubber. The protagonist threw the destroyed pipe aside, satisfied with the result. He realized that, with this strength, even empty-handed, he wouldn't be easy prey. Not even against the zombies in the early days of the apocalypse. With the test completed, he turned his attention to the arsenal in the truck. It was time to store everything safely. Using his spatial ring, he began to store the weapons. Time was running out. There were only 2 days left until the beginning of the end of the world. With the arsenal stored, the protagonist thought about the next steps. The apocalypse would begin the day after tomorrow, and he needed to make sure nothing was forgotten. A recent memory came to his mind. A gentleman begged him not to give up on the sale of his house, explaining that it was his only option in the area and that he needed the place for his granddaughter's school residence. Even after having lived through the apocalypse, with all its betrayal and danger, Jiang found it was still difficult to completely ignore the suffering of others. He made a decision. As a way to repay the money from the sale that financed his preparations, he would help that gentleman survive. Jiang drove to the man's address. On the way, he thought it would be better to take the supplies out of the ring beforehand, so he wouldn't have to give strange explanations later. Upon arriving, he noticed that the place was simple and rented. The gentleman really didn't seem to have many possessions, living on the top floor of a cheap building. He climbed the stairs towards the apartment and knocked on the door. Before the door opened, he needed to act fast. Focusing on the spatial ring, the magic item activated its power, and in an instant, piles of boxes with essential supplies materialized in the hallway. On the other side, footsteps approached. The gentleman was coming to answer, probably thinking it was the landlord. The gentleman opened the door, already apologizing for the late rent. But then he recognized the face in front of him and was speechless. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was Mr. Jiang, the young man who sold him the house. The gentleman looked at Jiang and then at the mountain of boxes in the hallway, totally confused. With no time to explain, Jiang just asked for help to take everything inside before the neighbors saw. After they took everything inside, the gentleman was still trying to understand what had just happened. He looked at Zhang Xiaoyong, completely perplexed by the young man's sudden generosity. He commented on Zhang's energy, impressed that he had moved so many boxes without even looking tired. To the gentleman, that was quite a feat. But Jiang wasn't paying attention to the compliment. He was inspecting the apartment, checking the security of the door and windows, assessing whether the place could withstand what was coming. After the brief inspection, the protagonist turned to the gentleman. The easy part was over. Now came the difficult conversation. Jiang asked the man to listen to him very carefully. He explained that those supplies, if used wisely, could last about 6 months. Then, the young man looked at a picture frame and asked about the old man's granddaughter, calling her by name, Meng Shanshan. The old man turned pale. He was sure he had never mentioned his granddaughter's name to Jiang. How could that young man know? Jiang picked up the photo and asked where Shanshan was. The old man, still confused, replied that she was at school and that the transfer of enrollment was almost ready. The old man's expression was one of pure confusion. He didn't understand Jiang's urgency, nor how he knew so many details about his life. But Jiang remembered everything. In his past life, he saw Shanshan's grandfather sacrifice himself to save her from the already infested school. This time, he wouldn't let history repeat itself. With a grim determination, he put the picture frame back in its place. A weighty decision had been made. Jiang then told the old man that he would no longer move to the old house. The man panicked, thinking that the young man was giving up on the deal and that he would lose everything. Jiang interrupted him, placing his hand on his shoulder to calm him down. He said that from the next day on, neither the house nor his granddaughter's enrollment would matter anymore, as the world would become hell. The old man was speechless, completely shocked. Jiang's words made no sense. A hell? In times of peace? Jiang knew there was no time for explanations the old man could understand. He simply ordered the old man to go with him immediately to Shanshan's school to pick her up. He would arrange a new safe place for the two of them. To prove his point, Jiang Xiaoyang revealed that he had superpowers and could predict the future. In order for him and Shanshan to survive, the old man would need to obey all his orders without question. There was no time to waste. With a gesture, Jiang made all the supplies in the hallway disappear. The old man was in shock, not understanding what kind of power that was. With a frightening intensity, Jiang reinforced the order. Shanshan's survival depended on her grandfather's obedience. He then asked where the girl's school was. The urgency in his gaze left no room for doubt. Without further ado, the two got into the car. As Jiang drove, the old man was still trying to process the avalanche of information. Superpowers, the end of the world. It was too much to believe, but the young man's seriousness was undeniable. They sped towards the school. Upon arriving, they jumped out of the car in a hurry. Meanwhile, in the schoolyard, Shanshan's situation was terrible. She was surrounded by a group of girls. The leader of the group, full of anger, assaulted her. She didn't understand why a boy named Zhang Xiaocheng liked Shanshan. Shanshan tried to defend herself, saying that she didn't even want to be with the boy and that he was the one insisting. But the explanation only made things worse. The aggressor didn't believe her and continued the attack. The humiliation intensified, with the girls pulling her hair and surrounding her mercilessly. Shanshan was completely defenseless, suffering at the hands of her classmates. Just when Shanshan was completely cornered, her grandfather and Zhang Xiaoyang finally arrived. The help she needed so much had appeared. The old man wasted no time and went after the aggressors, questioning what they were doing and demanding that they leave his granddaughter alone. But the delinquents were not intimidated. The leader of the group, with a pocket knife in his hand, mocked the old man, saying that he shouldn't meddle in young people's affairs. Without any warning, they resorted to violence. While the blonde grabbed the old man, the other prepared a blow with a baseball bat. The aggressor showed no mercy, swinging the bat with all his might. Only the blow never landed. Out of nowhere, a hand appeared and stopped the bat in the air with absurd force. It was Zhang Xiaoyang. With a cold look, he questioned whether those young people had nothing better to do than act like thugs. The aggressor was in shock, unable to move the bat even an inch. He was completely dominated. Jiang gave no time to react. He took the bat and with a single kick, hit the leader of the group squarely. The impact was so strong that the delinquent was thrown backwards, flying across the courtyard. The other two were paralyzed with fear. The situation had turned in a way they never expected. But the protagonist was just getting started. His expression was one of pure determination. Regaining courage, the two remaining bullies surrounded him, ready to attack together. The boy with the bat attempted a desperate blow, aiming directly at Jiang's head. However, to Zhang Xiaoyang, the attack seemed to be in slow motion. He dodged with impressive ease. Zhang Xiaoyang's patience had run out. He wasn't there to talk or defend himself anymore. It was time to attack. With a swift move, he grabbed the first aggressor by the collar, catching him completely by surprise, and he knocked him down with a single devastating blow, giving him no chance to react. The bully didn't even understand what hit him, only feeling the brutal impact. Seeing his friend fall, the second aggressor lunged forward with a knife, trying to end it once and for all. but Jong stopped the blade with his bare hand. The blonde boy couldn't believe what he was seeing. His attack was completely useless. The protagonist's response was a direct and precise kick. The blow sent him violently crashing to the ground. In seconds, the second bully was also out of combat. With the two aggressors defeated, Zhang Xiaoyang stood impassively. They were just an obstacle in his way. That's when the group's leader appeared, furious that he had interfered in their affairs. However, her anger turned to pure dread when she saw what he had done to her companions. She tried to question him, but fear locked her voice when she noticed the coldness in his eyes. Zhang didn't give her time to talk. He grabbed her by the hair, showing that he would have no mercy. With the aggressor's knife to her neck, he completely immobilized her. Then, he called for Shanshan, saying that they could leave now. With a cold look, Zhang Xiaoyang showed that he wasn't kidding around. He wasn't just going to scare them, but make sure the message was understood once and for all. And then, he did something that shocked everyone. In front of a terrified Shanshan, the protagonist took drastic action to punish the aggressor. He forced her to kneel on the ground, and with the knife, he cut her hair. Zhang coldly explained that long hair would be a burden in the days to come, and that it could actually save her life. She didn't understand the warning, only the humiliation. Consumed by rage, the girl screamed that he would pay dearly for this. But her threats meant nothing to him. With the warning given, Zhang Xiaoyang simply turned around, leaving the girl crying with rage on the ground. Shanshan and her grandfather watched the scene, still in shock. The protagonist then called them, saying it was time to leave. The young woman was still processing the violence she had just witnessed, not understanding where they were going in such a hurry. Once in the car, Shanshan's first question was about school. She couldn't understand why they were simply abandoning everything. It was her grandfather who answered, explaining that a great famine was about to happen and that surviving was the only priority now. Shanshan didn't believe it. She scolded her grandfather, certain that he had fallen for another one of those phone scams. She insisted, reminding him that he always said, "It's true," every time he was scammed. Meanwhile, Jiang listened to the discussion in silence with a slight smile. That's when he turned around and interrupted the conversation. Jiang revealed that her grandfather wasn't being scammed this time, as the information about the famine had come from him. The revelation left her speechless. If it wasn't a scam, then who was this man who saved her and was now talking about the end of the world? Despite the confusion, she thanked him for defending her from Sun Wei and his group. But Jiang knew that the famine story was just a simplification for her grandfather to understand. The truth was much more terrifying. Still in the car, Shanshan was trying to process everything. That man saved her, but his words about the future seemed like complete delirium. She thought it was impossible for a famine crisis to happen in times of peace. It was illogical. But Zhang Xiaoyang's calmness beside her made her even more apprehensive, until her face turned to pure shock. Without taking his eyes off the road, Zhang simply told her to turn on her cell phone and check the news. He didn't need to explain. The facts would speak for themselves, and upon unlocking the screen, what she saw left her paralyzed. The news showed complete chaos. People attacking each other in public as if they had contracted rabies. The reality was much worse than any scam her grandfather had ever fallen for. She turned off her cell phone, unable to continue watching those scenes. Fear and confusion took over. This couldn't be real. Shanshan turned to Jiang, finally understanding. He wasn't crazy. He knew everything. Jiang sped up the car, trying to get as far away as possible from the epicenter of the chaos that was about to explode. He knew what was coming. Cities on fire, people running desperately for their lives, fleeing from horrors that previously only existed in movies. And he knew there was no escape for those who were caught. Death was only the beginning of the nightmare, because once they died, they would rise again, transformed into one of those monsters. The hunger he mentioned was for human flesh. The terror in Shanshan's eyes confirmed that she understood the gravity of the situation. Zhang's expression, however, was one of pure determination. But their escape hit an unexpected snag. The road ahead was completely blocked by a traffic jam. Too late. With the urgency of the escape, Jiang's frustration grew with each passing second. To make matters worse, even the emergency lane was completely stopped. There was nowhere to go. Every minute stuck in that traffic jam was one less minute of advantage against the chaos that was about to explode. And in the middle of the confusion, a driver tried to force his way through, cutting in right in front of them. The guy didn't even use his turn signal. That disrespect was the last straw for Jiang, who decided not to let the attitude slide. He floored the accelerator and cut off the freeloader without hesitation. The abrupt maneuver startled Shanshan's grandfather in the back seat. He advised Jiang to avoid trouble, as the other driver seemed to be someone powerful. But Jiang didn't care. He told the old man not to worry, because if the guy got out of the car to start a fight, he would take care of it himself. He kept the pressure on the steering wheel, with no intention of giving in. The dispute over a minimal space on the road turned into a stalemate. Neither driver was willing to back down. After what seemed like an eternity, the traffic finally started to move a little. But the peace was short-lived. Suddenly, Shanshan's grandfather shouted a warning. The same car from before was back, and the driver seemed even more determined to cut them off. Only this time, the other driver went straight to being ignorant, tailgating and braking hard. Classic road intimidation. In the rearview mirror, Jiang saw the man shouting, completely out of his mind. He clearly wasn't going to let the affront pass. Shanshan's grandfather begged Jiang not to lower himself to the other man's level, but the young man's patience had run out a long time ago. The other car tried to cut them off once again, even more aggressively. Shanshan was frightened by the maneuver, fearing that the situation would get out of control. But for Jiang, that was the last straw. He floored the accelerator, determined not to give an inch. In the past, he might have let it go. But with the apocalypse coming the next day, there was no longer any reason to tolerate people like that. Without hesitation, Jiang swerved his car into the aggressors. Shanshan's grandfather tried to stop him, shouting for him to stop, but the young man's decision had already been made. Jiang was focused, ready to end that discussion once and for all. And then, the impact. He hit the side of the other vehicle without the slightest ceremony. The suit's car spun on the road, completely losing control. The driver got out of the car, dazed and furious at what had just happened. He immediately grabbed his phone and started yelling, promising that he would show Jiang that there are people you just don't mess with. Jiang continued on his way, leaving the man behind. He solved the immediate problem, but little did he know that he had just created a powerful enemy right on the eve of the end of the world.